So my guest here today, Cassandra Ballert, is someone who I actually know already for a bit longer, and I actually feel she truly sticks to her passion for sustainability, whether it's in her daily work at Siemens, where she is responsible to enable decarbonization in the IT infrastructure, or crazy thing, cycling from Australia to Germany. Yes, cycling. That's right. On a tandem bike. Cassandra, I'm really happy that you took the time and that you're here today. Thank you very much. Warm welcome to today's episode, which we called The Green IT Infrastructure.
Nice. Thank you, Roman, for having me. I'm always super excited every time we meet up and have talks. It's a wonderful exchange, and so I'm looking forward for today as well. So happy to be
Yeah,
here.
it's actually funny enough, right? We know each other since years. We've been working
Yeah.
actually together in some, not fully together, but in the same, under the same corporation kind of in research. And that's where we actually met. And then we never
Yeah.
lost thread, which is nice. That's great.
Yeah, it's been
So,
yeah, if you think about it, it's been 10 years that we've known each other. So I think
wow.
that's when I started in 2015 at the University of Applied Sciences in Rosenheim, working there. So yeah, it's
Yes.
been 10 years.
Wow. That's a long
Yeah,
time then.
it is a long
It's
time.
actually shows me how that I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cassandra, would you mind just introducing yourself? I mean, you're here today as an individual, so everything what you will tell us is from your own perspective, so your opinions, right?
Mhm.
But to know a bit more about you, maybe you can give us a bit of a background, who you are, what you're doing, and maybe where your passion for sustainability comes from.
Yeah, absolutely, Roman. So happy to introduce myself. And how I like to introduce myself is a vertically integrated sustainability professional, and also specifically within IT. And what I mean is vertically integrated is I've had a lot of experiences in different parts of sustainability along my career. So for the last 15 years, a little bit more than that, maybe. And yeah, I start to feel old. And what that means is I've touched a lot of spots that are essential to shaping any type of corporate sustainability strategy. So, starting off as an environmental engineer, so really working in a factory, having that hands on experience, understanding what reporting is, environmental reporting is, then working as a life cycle assessment professional. So, understanding then not just what's going on at the factory, but also what's going on inside of a product. So, what
Mhm.
types of decisions, design decisions that are being made that impact uh, the environmental aspect of different products. And that's what I was doing at the University of Applied Sciences in Rosenheim, studying that, also teaching future sustainability professionals and sustainability engineers. I also had worked on then applying that then in the IT, and that's really where I really saw my passion for product, my passion for IT software development really take off, as I had the opportunity to work on electric vehicles for a few years with some famous German car makers.
We have some of
And
these, yeah.
there's a few of them. So they were my customers. So really taking a look at
Cool.
literally what's underneath the hood of different cars and different aspects of software engineering and software development, and their really hardware, software. And then I've also had experience too. So one, having done the reporting way at the beginning of my year, at my career, and then also looking at how other people are doing the reporting. I've also have experience in auditing sustainability reports, also companies themselves as they try to achieve ISO environmental management system. So looking at how other companies are doing that and being able to assess, where there could be improvements, if there's anything that stands out that doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. And then at Siemens, what I've been doing is working on product development for a software called Green. And
Mhm.
Green is specifically kind of like taking looking back at life cycle assessments. Here it's for product carbon footprints and how the product carbon footprint information is exchanged along the supply chain, and working for that for 3 years. And now at Siemens, I'm part of the initiative to really roll out IT and sustainability throughout the entire organization. So that's,
Wow.
yeah, a lot,
It's
a
a
lot of
it's a it's a journey throughout sustainability. I like that. I mean, what I
exactly.
see is that you have this T-shaped knowledge, right? You have in depth also because you did it yourself. You know what it means to do all the calculations and to do all the reportings. But now, as you kind of also grew in your roles, you're getting also broader from the perspective, from a product perspective, from an infrastructure perspective. That's very interesting. So you're right at the junction, an intersection between sustainability and digital transformation now at Siemens, if I may say it that way. And I
Absolutely.
might ask you a question around that because we framed today's episode around green IT infrastructure. And I mean, IT infrastructure, yes, but a green IT infrastructure, I think, especially if we're talking about AI and on all that, right? The topic of sustainability might come up even more. Maybe you can give us a bit of more insights from your perspective and thoughts. What does that mean for you? Product architecture, daily operations from a product perspective, green IT
Yeah,
infrastructure.
absolutely. And that's also really interesting, especially as, for example, AI is taking off. We see it integrated in every single thing and every single bit of software as well. And looking at green infrastructure or green architecture, there's a lot
Mm,
that I've seen develop along the way. So now I used to work with a lot of physical products, or talking about physical products and the exchanging of product carbon footprints. But then software is really important. It's really important that software is also considered as a product and looked at in a very, very similar way, with understanding the carbon intensity of different types of operations, where, for example, even data is being stored, where it's being localized to, if we really looking into understanding, if I want to reduce the carbon intensity of my software product, it could also be based on the location of where you're storing your data. So there's a lot of
right.
different countries that use different sources of energy that would have a huge impact on this. And this is also what decisions that you can make right now too, is understanding where is kind of the greenest area or the greenest time to be doing some processes with your software products. So
But then it
that's
must be actually a thriving economy right now, right? To have a look into that, especially due to all the developments of more needed data centers, more needed IT
yeah,
infrastructure. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
exactly. Yeah, and that too, it follows the line of when we talk about sustainability or looking at low carbon sources, it also follows the line of typically when you're trying to decarbonize something, that means that you're using less energy, you're optimizing your processes more. So for example, taking a look at a factory, you're
Mhm.
making your processes more efficient. And that too is really interesting to see now that you can do this for software, like making your software more efficient, optimizing your processes, and being able to have a look at that and understand, when I'm optimizing my processes, I'm actually saving money too, which,
Right.
yeah, you can't forget that. So there's fewer calls,
Mm.
there's fewer calls that you need to make. For example, you have more when it makes sense, for example, to have more static data instead of always streaming and always providing data to something, and really start sitting down and thinking, okay, how do I want to be able to provide this overview or provide this insight? How do I want to transfer my data? And do I have to do it all the time? Because that too has a
Mm.
huge impact on your bottom line and what we're paying for, what you're paying for, to host and to develop the product as well.
So what you're saying is you can actually combine the goal of reducing the carbon footprint with a very valuable business case for your company, if I understand you correct, right? I mean, you can save money on the one hand,
Yep.
and you can streamline the processes, and on the other hand, do something good for the environment.
Exactly. So streamline, and also what that is too, when you're talking about sustainability and products, you're talking about so one, cost. So looking at how you can reduce costs, and then quality as
Mm-hmm.
well. So making
Mm-hmm.
sure that you have a well-structured architecture, you know exactly the purpose of different things that you're using and how that is set up too. It falls nicely in line with that too, making sure that you're well structured, you know what the purpose of different pieces of your architecture is, where the data is going, why, and making sure that you're not just having extraneous calls going everywhere and data
Right.
being sent when it doesn't actually need to be sent.
When I think about sustainability and implementing products in that environment, I often have the feeling when I talk to other companies that sustainability is always kind of conflicting with other factors. And you just mentioned costs or speed or scalability. And then when you're thinking about building a product now, right, and you need to put things on a product roadmap and outline your direction and vision for the product, then you bring in now that topic of sustainability. And I'm just wondering, does that work? Can I bring them together in terms of prioritization? What would be your approach? Should sustainability become a part in prioritization, maybe?
Yeah, and so that's one of the factors. So if you're developing a product, that can be one of the factors too. How sustainable do we want our product to be? So
Okay.
whether it's a physical product or a software product, that's also a key factor. And then you bringing up prioritization is also, that's
Mm.
one of the trickiest discussions to have. And that's it's I think anybody who's been in the product management space knows this. Talking with internal or external stakeholders, and uh, talking about really, so there's a lot of when you get into the sustainability space too, there's a lot of fantastic ideas that everybody has with how
Right.
to shape the product, what aspects to have in the product, and there it's really important to understand, okay, what do we really want to achieve at the end of the day, knowing that looking at prioritization, we have to think about cost and speed, like what's achievable. And doing this, I have found to so one of my the biggest tools in my toolbox, I would say, is just using the
Mhm.
Moscow method, because
Yeah.
it's something that I can take out and talk with any type of stakeholder. They understand it, so they don't have to be technical. They don't have to have a background in software development, and really kind of going through and saying, is this a fantastic idea? Let's put this down and map it against other priorities on our roadmap. Is this something that we must have? Or is this something that we
Mhm.
should have maybe in the future?
Right.
Or especially what
Right.
I find super powerful is the won't have. That is of the
That's
whole
the best
Moscow
bucket
method.
of all, right?
That's the best bucket of all.
Yeah. The more
You don't
is
want
in
to tell.
there. Agree. Agree. So your
Exactly.
daily life looks much like prioritization, understanding needs from your stakeholders and translating them into product initiatives and then building them? Or how can I imagine your life, your daily work life? Maybe you can
So
give a bit of more input around that.
absolutely. So my work life right now is looking at a whole at the company and understanding. So we have some initiatives around sustainability, how to build up knowledge and overview of where we are on our sustainability roadmap, and being able to bring a lot of different sources of information together, and a lot of different stakeholders, and they're compete. So I would say not necessarily competing, but they have a lot of varied interests, and
Okay.
bringing these interests together. And even though now I'm not wearing the hat anymore of a senior product manager and building a product, I
Mhm.
am taking a lot of what I have been working on in the processes that I use, and I am applying that nevertheless within my day-to-day job. So a lot of my questions that I'm asking, I mean, it's reflecting on, for example, today, what I discussions that I had even earlier is just really asking why are you trying to do this? What is it
Yeah.
that you really need to be doing here? If at the end of the day, if you saw this, is this an outcome that you would be happy with? And so really having like these discussions, understanding, and then trying to then showcase this within our tool and software landscape within Siemens. So if we're trying to
Right.
work on a decarbonization initiative, there's a lot of different ways that people understand decarbonization. Some just want to say, they just want to know, what the CO2 is or what the overall emissions are. And then others are looking for more information to make that decision making. And there, that's really important to say, okay, aha, you're a decision maker here. You need to know this information to follow through on X, Y, and Z initiative. And so that's really important to have these discussions and then
Mhm.
being able to kind of guide I would say our stakeholders, our my colleagues along the way to showcasing, okay, this is what's possible based off of what we have as information.
I liked how you said before that you now can also look at software and think about how to decarbonize, software and whatever is behind. I'm
Yeah,
just wondering now because I mean we're product people in that sense, and we're building tools, we're making roadmaps, we work with engineers. And if I, for example, as a product manager, would like to think about how to decarbonize and start in this direction with my software,
yeah,
how would I do that? Where do I start? I mean, it feels big and it feels quite overwhelming. Maybe you have some tips and
yeah.
tricks what you would do.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of tools already out there that are
Okay,
available.
cool.
Yeah. So there's, I think one of the first things that you could do, I'll have to probably let you know later I would say in the show notes, or let you know later
Yes, we
what
can.
the website is. But you can also see what the carbon intensity of your software is just by going to a certain
Oh wow.
URL. Yeah. So there's a lot
Okay.
of work that.
Sorry, just to interrupt you, but how is this measured? Like, what is it? Like
Yeah.
CO2 production at the end, or
I think basically, and I'll have to be corrected on this later, or I'll
yeah?
have to maybe correct myself on this later. But they can see, where, for example, which resources you're using, as well I would say at a meta level,
Okay.
knowing that it's in AWS Frankfurt, AWS Madrid, AWS, who knows? For example, and there's a lot of public data available to kind of map where a data center is, knowing what the carbon intensity of that data center is,
I
and
see. Okay.
yeah, and then
So
knowing
it does
kind
a
of
drill down in your library, in your tool stack, what you're using, and kind of brings that together. That's how
yeah,
it feels for me.
yeah. So I
Cool.
think they know basically some information like the so where your data is being hosted, and then also they can
Mhm.
see how many calls were being used to perform a certain action, and then aggregate that to a general level of what how well your product is performing or not. And
Okay.
yeah, I'll have to share that with you. So that would be like the first thing, and this is something that I learned really at the beginning of my career, and I think a lot of,
Mhm.
I would say, older sustainability professionals know this, or is what gets measured gets managed, and that's the first thing
Mhm.
you have to do is understand where you are, what's the lay of the land right now, what's your current state, and then understanding, okay, here are the certain things I can do to improve, for example, the sustainability of my software product. And that would be also using resources, for example, like the Green Software Foundation, or there's also Sustainable IT, which is an organization, and
Okay.
becoming involved. They publish a lot of information that can also be used to understand like what you can do to use the resources that you have in a more sustainable way. So there's a
Cool.
lot of
Cool.
information out there, and one of my colleagues, Carolyn Rubner, is also very active in this space. So not just internally, but also externally, with showcasing, what you can do with your own product, and then also bringing that over to AI, which some might say it's resource intensive, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot
Right.
of
It
and that
sounds
will
like a
be
good starting point.
yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's going to be very, very relevant as I see our grid. So kind of looking at the cost factor, how our grids would maybe be strained under the resource consumption of these different data centers. And so that's going to be a large scramble to make sure that we have efficient AI processes, and then that also translates to in most cases to a more sustainable process as well.
So turning that around, would you agree that if you know your decarbonization score, I just call it that way now in terms of software, that could be a unique selling point for your company, for your product in future? Would you agree
Absolutely.
with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is there are some initiatives where it's coming down the pipeline where they are looking at a framework for how to score your
Ah,
uh, the environmental footprint, so to say, of your software, of your product, of your website, so any kind of
right.
digital product, and
Yeah.
being and even I believe it's this website that I had am referencing. They even give you, I would say, like a little thing that you can put at the bottom of your, for example, for your product to say, uh, this product has a footprint of X, Y, and Z.
Ah, I see.
Kilos,
Okay.
yeah. So you can
Yeah.
even market that too,
Like
just
a
like
badge. Mm.
exactly. So just like you see that on your orange juice, so to say. So at least I see this on my orange juice now, or I just bought,
Yeah.
and
But
yeah,
I like
and
that. I like that. I think that's a good approach to, as you said, you need to measure, and then you can act on that, and
mhm,
just to make it transparent and show as well, like, because I think a lot of people are not aware of how much resources are used by software and IT every day in and out, right?
exactly. Yeah, it's a.
Yeah,
I would say for a non-IT person, it's something that you don't think about. It's like, or even just,
agree.
if, for example, storing your pictures in the cloud is just something really tangible that I think we all do. It's something that we don't think about. But if we start to understand what the impact is with maybe storing the eighth backup of our whole pictures, like our whole photo book, or like our
Mm,
pictures, the eighth backup again in a cloud application or cloud storage, then and see what the impact is that has on CO2, then maybe we would make different changes in the way that we're making storing things, for
100%.
example. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one more question for you, because what I see is, and we work also a lot with larger organizations, and they often start very strong with pilot initiatives in terms of sustainability, going full in, because maybe it's driven by politics, because there's some sort of support from government. But then I have the feeling that it sometimes phases out, the initiative. It feels like we are doing something in terms of sustainability. It sounds good for the company, and then it doesn't really stick or scale.
Mhm.
I don't know what your experiences with are with this, and maybe you have some insights on how do you make it stick.
Yeah. And this is, I always kind of draw things back to product as well, because this is a really good product question. And it all, from my perspective, it all boils down to showing the value of what you're doing. And also being able to communicate that to different types of stakeholders within your organization, especially if you're trying to do a sustainability transformation. Because if you have for example, a senior leadership who is more interested in the bottom line in the day-to-day process, this is something that you're going to have to show them the value of the sustainability initiative. It's not just kind of this nice thing to have off to the side, but when it comes down to it, it also reflects in, for example, cost savings. It reflects in this marketing, for example, being able to
Right.
market a certain product more so than your competitors, or you have a little bit of an edge there to say, you know what, we also have the sustainability aspect, so you can trust us to have a good quality, good sustainability in our product that we have. And that's exactly so coming from product too, is you always had to be able to translate your value to whoever and whichever customer that you're talking to. So understanding what their needs are at that moment and what problems that they have, and then saying, my product here is actually that solution that you're looking for because it solves X, Y, and Z problem, and it will make your day-to-day processes better and faster. And when we're looking at sustainability, yeah, that's really driving the value and showcasing, hey, I know this is this additional step, but think about this long term in the future. Now that you're able to, for example, understand more of your product carbon footprint, or you're able to understand more of what's going on within your organization with all this additional sustainability data, now you can actually make 5 more decisions that you weren't able to in the past because you
Agree.
have this data.
Agree. I think that's the point because, and I really much like that you bring it to the point where you say it's all about value, value for the company, value for the customer, maybe even value for potential new employees. I mean, that goes far
Yeah.
beyond. It goes in employer branding where you can, I mean, if you're sustainable or looking into that, that has impact in a second and third order of consequences, which is great. I think that's very much when you, especially in our product environment, often we like our processes and so on and stick to agile and whatever, but we forget about what value do we create, right? And
Yeah.
that's a very, very, very good point if I look at
And
sustainability.
yeah, and that's just something that so either in sustainability and product, or if you're even a project manager, uh,
Mm,
also showcasing too the value that either your project is bringing to the overall company, or your role as a project manager too, and within that project. And so being able to showcase, and also understanding that the message is going to have to change to your different stakeholders, the different people who
right.
you're communicating with. That's really, really important to be able to always show that, this is the value that it brings, and meet them at the level that they're looking at things.
So I already learned a lot from this session. I'm not a specialist in sustainability, but I have a way better understanding. That's great. I'm just wondering if you maybe for the next generation of product leaders, people who are just now maybe conquering this world, come into that world, if you have one advice, what you give them, what mindset, what skill should they invest in today?
Yeah. And one, I would have to say, um, just one mindset, and this also reflects the way that I kind of go about things, is to not accept the status quo. And
Mm.
I'm not trying to say, to be a renegade in the office and break things down and just say, like, this is all awful. That's not what I'm saying here. But often when we come into a situation, especially if you're um, entering the career world, there's a lot of things that you experience where you're just like, that doesn't really make sense. Or that actually could be better. And that's really where the key is, to identify these things and to know that you have the opportunity to change it. So a lot of people who have been in a certain role or position for a few years just kind of don't see these glaring issues
Right.
when you come into a job, and they just accept it. And that's really the opportunity that any person in, I would say, in product, joining into the sustainability space anywhere, has that opportunity to say, you know what, hey guys, we got to fix this. Don't worry, I have a plan too. So not just saying, hey, fix it, and it's not going to be me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
saying, okay, this needs to be fixed. We need to be optimized here. There's a better way to do this. And then also taking that opportunity to showcase how you do it and how it's being done. And that's really, really well received. And it's a important mindset too. Also thinking that, like, we're going to have AI agents doing a lot of stuff, but we can still use kind of like this deeper understanding and overview, and saying, hey, like, even with all this process, even with all the support that we're getting, there's something that we can make better here. And that's really important to keep the mindset. Is like, don't accept the status quo. Always be questioning, could it be better? Could it be better? Could it be better?
Wow, strong words. I think that's perfect ending for this episode. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Cassandra. It was great insights. I learned around decarbonization. You mentioned things like sustainable transformation, not the digital transformation, but maybe the sustainable transformation. So whoever is on this journey out there and has questions, I hope it's fine if they may reach out to you. Maybe you might be a
Absolutely.
contact person.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel
I
free to
will.
reach out. Happy to have that discussion. Also, exchange ideas. So maybe there's something too that anybody sees where they've been working on, for example, another solution to showcase
Sure.
green tech and the sustainability of different products. So love to be in that conversation. And thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I wish you all the best for your decarbonization projects and product
Thanks.
building. Thank you, Cassandra. Have a lovely day
Thanks,
further.
Roman. Yeah. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.